Okay. Nice Friday stream. Getting myself mentally prepared for some more code. Let's see if we can get things working today. That is the trick for the day. You might be able to see, I always mess this up, this code to this part of the screen here is producing nothing useful, just errors. So I'm in the middle of trying to troubleshoot and get things back to a state where things are actually displaying. So that's what I'm going to start working on, and if time permits, as I fumble along, if time permits me to get some edge and surface rendering functions finished, then I will be a happy man. So I just do want to check that things are actually streaming. This is always how I start these now. The computer I run OBS on is a little underpowered, I would say. It's not perfect. I mean, I get the job done just fine, but it always has me just a little bit concerned that things aren't working the way I intend them to be. So that's why these starts are sometimes a little shaky, as it were. So in particular, what happens is if I'm streaming, things work okay, but often the Firefox window with the chat open can be unresponsive, so I never know if it's actually, working the way that it should be. But things say they're good, so I'm going to assume they're fine. And on that note, let me switch this up. Nope. There we go. I've got 3 different scenes here that I kind of want to make a little cooler looking. So we've got the one where if I don't want to show the screen at all, this one is like an overlay, and then transition to the daily working sort of setup. Then I've got other things that are irrelevant. Okay, enough chit chat. Let me see what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so I'm in the middle of, yesterday I did what you could call refactoring on my stylo library a little bit, where basically all of the mathematics stuff I pushed into the Forge library, which I think is a smart thing to do. Stylo itself should be relatively clean, and that means now I've got ASDF, which is the front-end scratch pad. It's a big old mess, and I need to probably spend the weekend, maybe more, kind of designing that layer of things a little more effectively. But point is, it's not producing things that work right now. Like I have no visual feedback, which is what I want to get. So I have to fix up the code to get some display, and then once we've got display, I can work on the curve and surface rendering. And then once I have those things, I can wrap it up into a simple to use function, and then I can finish up the logic for things like Revolve and Sweeps. And then once I have those, I have a ton of capability for making all kinds of cool shapes. Then I can tackle, this won't all be today, this is long, this will take time. But once I have Revolve and Sweep and all of that stuff, the next big thing to do will be unions and intersections and cuts of 3D shapes. Once those are done, pretty much I will have everything I need to make most 3D models that you could really want from like a CAD modeler. And then it's a matter of really fine-tuning everything, optimizing, making the logic more foolproof, all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of work, but there's clear progress being made, in my mind anyway, which is really exciting. But before all of that, I have to figure out what to do to fix things. And I have right here a nice kind of starting point. Forge.proto rotate point is undefined. Which is a good place to start, but I have to try and figure out where that's being called from. Hey, Seyoung B. Apologies if I pronounce your name incorrectly, but how are you doing? Sorry, I am very briefly sidetracked. Doing all right? Let's see here. You're doing all right. I'm glad to hear it. I'm doing quite well as well. It's actually the first week back streaming after a little bit of time, so I'm excited to be doing it again. Actually, I was sidetracked there. I installed. I set up Nightbot for the first time, and there's some moderator functionality that I was unaware was on. So that's what's sidetracking me. That's all. So anyway, that's unimportant. Yeah, I'm doing well. Trying to get back in the groove. I took a nice break for myself, which is really good. In my opinion, it was nice for me. But boy, oh boy, do you lose the mental map of all the stuff you've been thinking about. So using my code it's not like a immediate pickup, right? Especially because I'm still thoroughly in the development and experimental phase, right? So I've got some messy thinking in the code sometimes. So that's been a little hard to unravel, but it's fun. It's good to look at your code again and go through things. So I've been enjoying that. I will be trying to get this working again. Good. Yeah. Let's see here. Any new projects on your end? Anything exciting going on? Let's see here. Okay, so I'm calling rotate point somewhere, which is not a function that exists currently, and I have to try to figure out where. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay. Forge proto rotate. Let's see here. Source forge proto.cljc. If this loads okay. Unable to resolve symbol. Nothing much, just working. We want to create a blog, but not very motivated. Yeah, that can be motivation's so elusive, right? Sometimes you in theory you want to do something, but there's just something that almost stops you dead. What kind of blog? Programming blog or something totally different than that? Because blogs are fun, they can be a lot of fun in my opinion. Unable to resolve symbol - circle in this context. Of course not, because that's not a function that exists. And the reason for that Let's see here. Oh, that's okay. Rotate point does exist. Ah, here, this, see this is the problem, or one of the problems anyway. Yes, in fact, this has to, I don't know why I didn't see that earlier, that's strange, but alas, that's how it is. Very random blog. You want to talk about Clojure, cats, and posting some doodling? Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Is there anything in particular that's like stopping you from doing it? Is it like questions about platform or technology to use to make it? No pressure from the questions I'm asking, by the way. I'm just out of curiosity, you know? It's cool to hear what other people have in mind for those things. Personally, I love the appeal of random blogs, you know, not built to sell stuff per se, not built to evangelize anything in particular, just to kind of share thoughts and ideas. I think that's, I personally like that kind of approach to blogs, and you don't see a ton of them. They're here and there, so it'd be cool. Sounds like it'd be fun. Yeah, sometimes don't mind sharing. Creating a static blog would be quick and easy. Yeah. Then you want to do something challenging. So you want to make your own blog thing or dynamic one you could build? I've never done that myself. That'd be pretty cool. Then you're like, meh, feeling lazy. Yeah, so this actually, I think about this kind of thing quite a bit, honestly. I was, for a while, let's see here. I've got my quote-unquote blog. You can barely call it that because I don't use it too much, but I actually don't mind that. It's static files and it's hosted on GitHub, and it's very simple. It's just links to web pages with stuff on them. You know, can't get much simpler than that, honestly. But the whole motivation part, I understand it completely, right? And it's so easy sometimes to get really into the idea of building out some thing for yourself. But then, you know, is your goal actually to build a blog, or is your goal to build a blog platform? You know, they're related but distinct kinds of projects in my view anyway, right? So is it actually the content that you're excited to build, like talking about Clojure, talking about cats, like you say, or would you actually really enjoy the challenge of building a dynamic blog type platform? Because those in my mind are quite different, right? Like you could build out a platform for a blog that has nothing but lorem ipsum posts as like filler posts, right? And then you can build out some cool system. Totally worth doing it if you want to, right? But that's a distinct sort of thing from really wanting to write content. Anyway, I'm sure you've encountered stuff like this. You've thought about stuff like this before. For myself, when it came to writing and showing some things, I thought, for me, just writing stuff in Markdown, spitting that to some static HTML and putting that on a GitHub page is probably more than enough for the time being for what I really want to do with it. And that really, for me, took total pressure off. No more guilt, no more feeling lazy about blog stuff, because I didn't have to worry about any of those things. The choice was easy, the method's simple. Boom. If I want to write something, I can write it and get it up there. That's been my approach. That's been really nice. totally mainly for content, then you could move to the real challenging part for the next project. Just put something up soon. Yeah, thanks for sharing the insight. Yeah, I really hope, I don't want to come off as me like being all preachy and saying you have to do this, right? Like your choices are totally your own. You do whatever you want, right? I've just found for myself that if the goal's the content, the best thing to do is write the content and just put it out on something. You know, and all of the dynamic stuff underneath it is you really, if you have to figure it out, you will figure it out, right? Yeah, doing work that you want to do is this weird thing that you have to confront your own psychology with all the time. Yeah, I want to do blank, but turns out at 2 p.m. on a Friday, there's a big part of my brain that doesn't want to do anything at all. And suddenly your goals can just fly out the window. And it's like, oh, you know, humans, our brains are so ridiculous sometimes. Anyway, it sounds like a really cool project. I do hope you figure out a nice way to do the things you want to with it. It sounds really cool. And yeah, all the best. That's really all I can say at the end of the day. I can say this much to you and anyone who happens to be listening. If there's some project you want to do but you don't know how to go about it, or you don't think that you can achieve it, it's more than likely that you can in fact achieve it. It's just a matter of dedicating time and mental energy to working through things. I mean, I am attempting to build CAD software. It's not necessarily the easiest kind of thing to approach, but I mean, you just kind of gotta chip away at these things a little bit. And it's not like you need to know a ton of things up front. You just need a willingness to keep trying, you know? If you don't understand something, that's not a problem. You just have to try and understand it by reading it differently, testing things out differently, and all that. I'm going on some crazy tangents right now. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm kind of procrastinating myself right now. Oh boy, oh boy. It's okay, it's Friday. Yeah, that's exactly right. Take it easy on a Friday. Now I'll see if I can get if I can get to a point where I'm back to displaying things in this window, I'll be a happy man, because I'm not that far from having good edge and surface rendering for the SVG stuff. And once I have that, I can really work on the 3D functionalities that I want. Like, what I actually am trying to get to is I have pardon me, I have this here, extrude, which I can extrude 2D polygons vertically and they make a 3D shape, which is great. But I want to finish building out revolve and sweep functions, which, if you're not familiar, they're like the same, they're extrude, but you spin it around an axis or you pull it along a path. So that's this. That's not a good example. This sort of thing is a sweep kind of thing, linear extrude around a pattern. Anyway, those are extremely powerful functions for. Here's a revolve with a low resolution. Those are super powerful functions for making CAD, for making solid models. So I need it, and I have some setup, but I need to visually test that it's working, right? So I need I need to fix this so that I can actually see the shapes I'm coding. So that's my motivation for the day. get my code working so I can see it, so I can break it again to try and get this working again. Oh, what a tangled web. You know what? That's okay sometimes. Okay, so let me double check this console here because there's errors here. Okay, this let's see here, operations, transformations, rotate. Okay, so we've got this rotate function here. Rotate point here uses this rot point here, which, oh man, I typoed again. That's a 2, not a 3. Craziness. Okay, so I'm gonna do myself a little. Do I have OpenSCAD open in 2 tabs? I do. Classic. Alright, we're gonna shut down this REPL here, and we're gonna reload it, see if it compiles fine, and see what new errors show up, if there are any new errors. One thing I've never done properly is look into tools to really help with refactoring a code base. And one of the reasons for that, warnings. Okay, that's fun. Warnings are good. I mean, they're bad, but they're good because they can hey, okay, we've got visual. All right, that's nice. Okay, so we've got this P that says hi. Let's go. Hello again, my friend. Okay, let's see. So that broke, and that's because this is using functions that don't exist, I assume. So if I refresh this, does that fix that again? Okay, so hello. Hello, my friend. It's a good starting point. Okay. So, I wonder if this will work. I suspect no. Okay. This doesn't exist. That's right, this here no longer exists. Okay. And the reason that doesn't exist is because I deleted it intentionally because I'm trying to replace that functionality with something that makes more sense. Okay, so we're stepping in the right direction. It looks as if the Forge library code, which is this window on the left here and the REPL here, it looks like for the time being that will be safe. That looks like that's relatively bug-free for the purposes of what I'm trying to do here. Right, so let me double check. Maybe I do still have a proto version of this because maybe I did not delete it. I just don't remember. Pretty sure it's gone. So this here is where I will be creating and deleting some things. This here is what I'm hoping to be the actual code to run. Well, in fact, I want to make a render function for points, curves, the functional representation, so the sign distance function for surfaces, and then you can turn them on and off. Kind of, you could make some combination render of all of those in a single function call later. So there will be a bunch of, it'll be render dash surfaces as well, but this is the starting point. I just want to get to that working. Okay, that, I think I can pull it off. So this looks like it's gone, so I'm just going to go ahead and just delete this. We'll just start from, not total scratch, but we'll start from an easier spot. I love deleting code. I love deleting code. Sounds crazy, but it's true. It just means you can kind of clear your mind a little bit. Okay, so now we've got throw exception issues, which is not so bad actually. This isometric here is actually in this function here, isometric transform, is produced up here, which is in the stylo library, which is separated into two different namespaces. Here I've got shape and SVG. All of the math, like the geometry math, is here in the Forge library. This seems really confusing, but I promise eventually this will be like nicely delineated and very clear. Once I heard from a coworker that beginner and intermediate devs will have more more addition commits than senior devs will have more minus removal commits for repo contribution. Yeah, I think this is actually a really common approach that like any human thinks about for any generic problem that you're trying to solve. For whatever reason, the first solutions that come to our minds tend to be what I would call additive solutions. So I need like if you have a wobbly chair or something like that, right? You think the solution, you add a piece of paper under one of the legs so that it doesn't wobble anymore. But you could make a subtractive solution for a wobbly chair by sanding down the other legs, or sanding down the part of the floor that causes the chair to be wobbly, right? This is a silly example, but point is, we as humans, we often first think of what can we add to this to change things. It's not always bad. In fact, you often do need to add things. But as some complicated system, or even a simple system as it grows, right, you might have situations where it actually is better to take things out. And I think what your colleague is referring to there is the fact that, you know, someone more senior might have built up more intuition about those kinds of situations where, wait a second, we can solve this particular issue just by taking this out entirely. Or if you slightly redefine what you consider to be a problem and the output that you want, you can completely eliminate whole sections. And when it comes to code, you know, any bit of code is liable to have some bug in it. Therefore, the less code you have, the fewer lines of code you have in total, the fewer total chances of bugs there are. So it kind of makes sense, right? Of course, in reality, there's always some balance, right? The safest way to build a bridge is to not build the bridge. But if you need to build a bridge, you need a bridge, right? So you still need to solve the problems. But yeah, I wouldn't call totally makes sense, yeah. I would not make a claim that I am a senior dev. There is a lot of stuff that I can improve on, that I have to learn about yet. Like, it's a deep ocean of knowledge that I am just paddling into a little bit. So I'm not that great, but I do know removing code, it can be a really helpful thing. That's why I like it so much. Clears my brain. it's a whole set of things you don't even have to try to understand anymore. Okay. This throw exception thing is... I don't know how I want to handle that, honestly, because that's coming from here. Let's go like this. This complaint here comes from this here. This code, presumably there's no exception in Clojure script, at least not directly. I suppose there is. It's not a constructor. So maybe I'm just calling this incorrectly. Let's see if I can... maybe I just wrote that code wrong. It's entirely possible. Let's see. Right, this does work in Clojure, yeah. JS/error E. I'm not reading very thoroughly, so there's a good chance I'm still not understanding this. I'm just trying to be lazy, unfortunately. Okay, so throw. Can you just throw? Can you throw some string? Ah, okay, no. I mean, I could just change this to not have the throw because I could be lazy. Sayang B, yeah, sorry. Tried to, yeah. So give me 1 second here. Nightbot is Nightbot is the little thing that I'm using to help with things like this. It's a bot that lets you do chat commands. But here, if you give me 1 second, I'm going to try turning off the moderator settings. I didn't realize that it was so strict. So if you give me 1 second, if you permit me to try this out while you're here. Okay, log in. Let me see here. Saying B, do you mind actually just trying to paste that same link you had in the chat before, just to see if it moderates you again, if you don't mind, if you don't want to play along. That's cool. Oh, there you go. Okay, so now that worked. Okay, so I'm gonna be okay with that for the time being. Yeah, sorry about that. These are the growing pains a little bit here. What am I trying to do? Oh yes. Yeah. So okay. So throw. You had said here exception is a Java class. Replace it with JS/error. Right. So what I could do is shoot. How do I always forget this. There's reader conditionals, I think is what they're called. I always forget the syntax of this. Reader conditionals are used to switch, yeah, when, so let's see if your suggestion will work. I think it probably will. So I'm using a reader conditional here that will use CLJ. I want you to produce this thing, and if, oops, I did delete the wrong thing. This one, CLJS, will be throw JS/error. I do believe that might be okay. We'll see if this works as a starting point. Okay. So I really don't love using these conditionals that much. I mean, like, it's not so bad, but if you suddenly start riddling your code with those everywhere, it's not perfect, I guess. What I would much rather do is have some namespace dedicated to encapsulating the difference on its own, so then the code itself reads exactly the same either way without a conditional in it. But for the sake of this little thing, which honestly needs to be revised anyway, this I think is a fine choice to make. It's not so bad. Let's see if it is a sufficient change first of all. Okay, we lost something here, maybe. Save that. Undeclared. Okay, so we're getting different warnings now. That looks like it might have solved that particular issue, so that's a step in the right direction, which I am happy with. Okay, let's get back over to this and get working here. Okay. Oh yes, this is I shrunk this too soon. Okay, so this is referring to something down here. Yes. Online here uses this, which I changed the name to be cross star, which is cross product. That's what that means. And the same problem over here. That might happen a few times, unfortunately, because like I mentioned briefly before, I have not learned how to use, or have not looked into using refactoring tools that really I should probably use. Okay, so there's currently no immediate errors happening, which is a good thing. There's all these undeclared var problems here and so forth, so that is obviously not good, but we can press on for the time being. Every little bit is a step in the right direction, mostly. Okay. See, here we go again. Another call inside normal. I think there's a period missing for JS/error. That could very well be. Oh, like this. That's basically what you're saying earlier. Let me make that change. Let's go into here, comparing floats. Good catch, by the way. JS error. All right, let's go with that. That's almost certainly, that would have almost certainly shown up again. One one thing that's like confusing here is I'm working across 3 different libraries, and so the errors that show up here, they might not, I might fix the source in a different library, but I'm hot reloading the browser code, but it might not necessarily be with the most recently compiled library version, so things can be missed, which is probably the fault of how I set up my workflow here. It's not the smoothest, as you can tell. But it works. Oh, this here, I can change this to V star, which is just a short form that I had for vector multiply, right? V star 1, 2, 3 is not a cross product or anything like that. It just piecewise multiplies 2 vectors together. So if I want to double all of those, I do V star, which is the same as map multiply 1, 2, 3 2, 2, 2. Actually, it's map V is equivalent. So I just made a little helper function there, so that can be made just a bit easier there. Normal, where is that on plane? Which is where? I thought that was in here somewhere. Yes, normal here, cross, and this is going to be a problem. This is dot product. Oh, do I have a generic dot product? Yes, I do. Yes. That's good. These aren't correct. Cross product. Dot product. Ooh. Boy, some of these need to be refactored altogether. They're a little hard to read. I mean, sometimes that's just the way it is, but I really feel like there's probably some pretty straightforward optimizations available in some of these things. That's going to be a whole thing for another day, though, because this is not... It's not something I'm looking forward to doing. I also do believe I could actually do... So here I'm mapping plus onto all of those. I think I can do this. Let's double check that for a minute, actually. If I v add 1, 1, 1 and 2, 2, 2, I get 3, 3, 3. But can that work on any amount? It does. Okay, so this should be a fine change there. That shouldn't be an issue. Okay, save that. Tangled those. Right, next set of things to do. If I get rid of that, there's no Forge Proto / square I deleted. Ah, this was a mistake. Maybe I called it square. Yes, I changed it to square. Ooh. This is potentially confusing because, you know what, I'm going to change it back to SQ. The reason is because I might have a function later that draws squares, and so I don't want to have that confusion. Damn, naming things is hard. Especially like things that are just kind of math sometimes, you know, where they don't necessarily, like, they're not straightforwardly some real thing. frep line. Yeah, see, so sometimes, this is a little weird, sometimes there's still all of these compile warnings, but because there's nothing wrong, like there's no because of the code that's being rendered into the page, it can be fine here, right? But as soon as I pull this back in, because it's using this test shape thing, it calls a bunch of functions that have some incorrect things on them. So here, for example, undeclared forge proto isometric, that's right here. This has to be shape actually. So that's gone, but render curves is also in the shape. Okay, so now we have to start tackling, I don't know why sometimes it shows errors here, but other times it doesn't. But okay. Right, so next set of things to do, let's close that again. Let's have a look. Okay. Let me go here. It was a line, frep line, that used the wrong calls here. This is dot product. Okay. Wish this were a little more exciting, but hey, that's the nature of it sometimes. Okay, another map v mult here can just be v star. It's probably a really good idea for me to start writing like more thorough documentation about my reasoning and stuff soon, which I can always do on a per function basis. Like I can always do this, write paragraphs here explaining what is happening, because this is literate programming. I'm writing this inside an org file that gets tangled into source code, but I keep putting that off as well. Shame on me. This here can be that. See, this is not a proper refactoring either, in my opinion. Like I should almost come up with, I want to do a single change, as in anytime there's a map multiply on some vectors, I can turn it into a call to vector multiply. And then you go through the code, and then you make a new choice, and then you do it for all those, and then you just kind of go. If you have to do manual refactoring like this, it kind of makes a bit of sense to do it that way. Then again, that might not be good. It might make more sense to focus on a single function at a time, write a unit test for it, and then just rewrite the function, changing it to be more optimal without failing the test you wrote for it. I don't know. This is an area that I don't have real world experience in, so I'm kind of making it up as I go. Not the best, but I work with what I've got. This is fine. The cool thing is a lot of these ideas just actually build up calls from other ideas already. I don't know if that made any sense. Okay, here. This is a dot. It's also the case that when you're trying to like encode some math functions into a program function, is that they can look extremely messy and opaque, right? Like this is not exactly clear to me, but if I open this triangle function is based off of the not the isosceles, off of this. So this is GLSL, graphics language shader language or whatever. It runs on a fragment shader, or runs inside a fragment shader to produce this triangle. But I adapted this math into this function here, so it looks pretty messy because I did pretty much a one-to-one. So it might not be very idiomatic Clojure, you know, it just might be all totally wrong. Might be an idea to refactor this more thoroughly, but I'm not doing that today either. There's a lot of things I'm not doing. I don't think I ruined anything, did I? No, it looks good. Okay. Sphere. See this? There's other types of refactoring just to make things read consistently. So I've been writing this as function, and you call point, and then instead you do let xyz equal point here. That reads consistently with other functional representations I've been writing. It's unfortunate because it does make the function longer. I don't know if it's better to actually write it that way or not. Unclear to me, but so be it. Also here, for each of these, I could use the square function instead of multiply. In fact, why don't I do that? Just while I'm here thinking about it. Okay, that should all be fine. This is a redundant comment. Okay, Taurus. I'm gonna leave that now as well for now. See here, this is an interesting, this is actually now an error. So what I've done, if I look up at, let's take this frep line, returns a higher order function that expects a single argument, and that argument is a point. And a point is just, so this is like a tuple, like a list of 3 numbers basically, is a point. I haven't made an actual structure for that or anything, it's just currently the assumption I'm going with. But this here returns a function that expects 3 arguments, and so that breaks the structure I had for all of the other functional representations I had before. So this is not correct. This has to be like this. Let x, y, z equal point. And now that'll work. And here, once again, I can do square x, square y. And that's good enough for now. And that's good enough. And box as well is not done. Same problem here. These have to be point, and then a let there, x, y, z. Perfect. Okay. Let's repeat the loop of things here. Let's close that. Okay, so there's almost certainly still more to fix, but that's okay. Let's keep on moving. Okay, next set of things to fix are whatever warnings show up here. Yes, okay. Use of undeclared variable brep curve sweep. This is showing up in what function call? Okay, brep curve ellipse is near it. Primitives, it's probably the arc, old arc here. Pardon me. Here. Double parens. Oh, hey, K. Jockus, I'm not sure if... So, thanks for following, first of all. And sorry, my Nightbot setup might be a little aggressive here. If you give me 1 second, I can check that. And Seyoung B, I can explain the double parens in just a minute. That's actually not an error. Give me 1 second here. I hope you don't mind that I fumble through with my Nightbot here. Apologies. Let me see, because that seems maybe it's being aggressive here. Let's disable that emote thing. Oh, perhaps I cannot. Ah. Very sorry. Please all bear with me for figuring this stuff out. Oh, you know what? It does look like maybe you were indeed spamming emotes a little bit there. So maybe I will leave that on there. Links are fine. Kate Jockus, you can participate in all the chat and stuff like that, but I do think probably it's a good idea not to spam too many things. So we'll just see how things go. Anyway, thanks for the follow. I do appreciate that sincerely. But yes, Soyoung B, the double parens, I can explain that actually right now. So if we look over here, I have some test shape A, is this shape structure I've been working on. If I pull from there, what's a simple way to describe this? Actually, let me take one step back. There's a parametric function I have that is a mathematical function that draws a line between point A and point B. brep line will do that for me. Okay. Brep, by the way, stands for boundary representation, and it's a representation that uses boundaries, so edges and surfaces, to bound volumes to create shapes. It's used in CAD programs all the time. But this function brep line takes as its arguments 2 points. So if I draw a point in 3D space from the origin to 1, 1, 1, it gives me back the return value of that function is itself a function. It's a higher order function. So if I want to call that function, what I can do is put that function in call position there. Since I know that this S expression returns a function, if I put that in the function position, like if I put it at the front of the list, aka the double parens there, and then call it as if it were a function with some argument, it will return an actual value. So in this little snippet right here, what is happening is brep-curve-sweep is a function that returns a function. So I'm calling that function with those parameters. It would be the same as if I did with the line here, if I defined B to be this, now B is a function, right? Just like the addition, just like plus is a function, clojure.core/plus, B is a function, forge.proto/brepline -anonymous function number here. So I can call them just the same way. 2 + 2 is 4, right? It returns some value. brep line, B, it takes a parameter, and I know that because I wrote the function, and it gives some value out. Hope that makes a bit of sense there. So the double parens are not a mistake in this instance here. The mistake I'm getting here is related to curve sweep not being declared at all. So where was I? That would be up here. Surface circle. Curve sweep. Yeah, thanks for explaining. Yeah, glad I could clear that up. Did I not define sweep, or did I do the thing where it's technically... Oh, right. Because these sweeps aren't technically correct yet. Okay, so that's fine. Let me... Straight sweep like that will fix it, but let me put a little note to myself here. This is not correct yet. Need to build sweep function that rotates based on path normal calculation. Straight sweep does not do this. So there we go. This is not correct, but for the sake of having the stub sort of in there to work from, that's not a bad idea necessarily. Okay. Let's go ahead and close that. Save that. We're good there. Save this. One little bit at a time. Well, of course, old arc is not going to be right because it's just there as a reference. So let's go primitives, arc, old arc. Should be able to do brep circle, and that should probably fix it. Oh, of course, I'm doing this wrong. You know what? Let me... No, it's curve circle. That's correct. That should be it. Okay. I have to go to the washroom for a minute. I will be right back. Won't be long. Let's see. Okay. Oh, a lot of this today. Compile warnings. That's fine though. That's all part of the process. All part of the deal. Okay. Right, brep circles, that's saved. This, let's cycle that. I thought I fixed that. Okay. Oh, I missed it, of course. Straight sweep does not account for rotating based on path normal. That is true. Yes, okay. Save that. Let's see. See what pops up now. Ah, okay. What am I looking at here? Ooh, this is in a different library now. It's a fun change of pace. Celebrating errors in different spots now, which is, it just feels strange, but that's fine. Okay, large arc flag in the SVG namespace. That means it's probably in here somewhere, right here. This G is F now, so it was G for geometry. That was the short, pardon me, but this now can be like that. And I do believe angle from points 2D, I do believe geometry calculations. Angle from points is what it's called. So I can just get rid of the 2D part, and that should work fine. Yes. That should be okay. Right, so let's cycle this again. Basically, I'm just doing this to refresh the page and see what error comes up next. That's really all I'm doing. Oh, did I not save this? Sweep flag. Oh, yeah, okay. Same kind of problem here, of course. G slash, this is now F slash radius from points. These are probably broken functions anyway, at least in part. So we save that. Okay. Ooh, why do I have rotate point in there? Ooh, that seems like it shouldn't exist. Why does it? Oh, right. This is for this makes sense. It's for rotating 2D elements, like in the SVG 2D canvas space. So that does make sense that that's there. But this can be F because it's pulling from the Forge library, no longer from the Stylo namespace at all. So that's a good change to make. Should be fine. Okay, bounding box center. That, I do believe, exists. I forget if I move that one. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. Bounding box center 2D. Okay, that's good. That's useful. I have to go now into the rotate section, rotate element. Okay. So the call in, oh, it's a def method, rotate element line right here. Okay, perfect. We've got G, this is F, bounding box center 2D. Okay. There a few times. Okay, let's have a look. What's going to show up next? Did I miss one? Scale element. Oh, okay. Now that's going to be the change needed for all the scale elements. Not a big deal. Okay, that starts on line probably, right? Yes, that's the first spot. Yeah. Bounding box center 2D. Yeah, here, here. Oh, turns out I have been back for a while, in case you didn't catch that. Hi there, Mad Skills. Cool name. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Just say Mads? Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Thanks. Real name is Mads? That's cool. That's a nice name. I like that. I'm into it. Circle by points. How are you doing today? Hope things are going well for you. I'm just working my way through my own code, trying to fix my own mistakes. And it's slow going sometimes, I'll tell you that. Okay, circle by points is in shapes here. Oh no, that was, I see, that I think is like a temporary kind of thing. Doing well. What about me? Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. It's a nice Friday actually. I like Fridays because for some reason I just feel like I let myself off easy. There's no pressure, you know. If I get stuff done, it's good. If I don't get as much as I wanted to done, it's not a big deal. Fridays are great. I also like where I'm at. It's a nice fall season, and the temperatures are dropping just a bit. I love that. That's my it's my pristine weather time. So cozy. So I'm in a good mood. Is the long and short of it. Circle by points. I don't think I'm even going to keep this function, but we'll go with it for now because it might be fine. It's really cold where you are, or just cold. What? Sorry, I don't know what you mean by just cold. Where I'm at, it's 12 degrees Celsius outside. So I don't know if you consider that cold. The temperature is cold. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I misunderstood you for a second there. A little brain fart on my end. Okay, let's see here. Do you, Mads, do you write Clojure yourself? Just asking out of curiosity. I mean, why else would you ask questions if you're not curious? That's kind of silly. Anyway. Wondering, because some people that tune in and chat don't actually write Clojure, which is totally fine. It's just, it's interesting to know who does, who doesn't, that kind of thing. Okay, the figure function, where did I write that now? That would be in composites here. Containers, figure. Yes, this no longer needs that. That looks good. You know some JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and Lua, and a few more. But you're the best with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Cool, nice. Well, I mean, like as a power triple of things to know, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS are totally the right fit, right? Cool, nice stuff. I wish I could say I knew JavaScript all that well, but I don't. I use Clojure script if I need to do web stuff, and JavaScript I've never really done a deep dive. I've done like tiny little bits here and there. Oh, you learn it in school? Well, that's cool. I never had the opportunity. I have to self-teach when it comes to that kind of stuff. So do you, like, are you able to just, you taught yourself most of it? Yeah. I kind of think programming kind of is mostly a self-teaching sort of thing. I mean, you can learn from people, right? But you kind of really learn it most when you're teaching yourself the concepts and stuff. So it makes a bit of sense. Okay, what did I do wrong now? No such namespace, SVG. Ah, yes, of course. That would be right here. And these will all go away as well. The reason that those have to disappear is because I've moved these functions into the same namespace. So now they don't need the call to the namespace there. Had a hard time learning it at first, didn't know how to start and such. Actually, that's a really good point. In order to teach yourself programming stuff, you kind of need like this minimum basis of knowing how to do it to begin with. Kind of have this bootstrap problem, right? And that's where having a teacher or a course or a book or something can kind of kickstart it. So that's totally fair. It's really hard to know where to start. In fact, I don't even know where I started because I call myself self-taught because I haven't done programming as a I've not studied it officially, but I've been taught C++, I've been taught little bits of C, and some MATLAB in school and stuff like that. So, you know, some of the concepts I've learned. So it's not a total from scratch thing. I wonder if maybe there's no set of knowledge that is entirely self-taught. But that's a whole philosophical thing. Okay, distance is a function in the Forge namespace, so I have to call that properly. What function is that? Also call yourself self-taught, since the only thing you learned was CSS. Everything else is self-taught. Nice. Yeah, I you know, for what it's worth, I don't think being taught traditionally or being self-taught, like, neither one is better or worse than the other, right? Like, at the end of the day, if you can do things with the knowledge you have, that's a better measure of if you've actually learned stuff than the method by which you've learned it, in my opinion anyway. But blah blah blah. I love programming. It's fun to learn new stuff. It's fun to try it out. So, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who's teaching me. I enjoy it mostly. Okay. Oh no, this is related to dimensions. Here we go. Okay, this yeah. Okay. I'm getting closer to having all the little things repaired, but there's always little. It turns out I wrote more code than I realized as well, so this is turning into a bigger thing than I thought it would be. Funny how that goes. That is okay though. You have not seen this language before? Oh, this is Clojure. Let's see here. Clojure. If my internet would load. Clojure. It's a Lisp language. Like this, Lisp. That runs on, like, that compiles to Java bytecode and runs on the JVM. I happen to really like it. It's a pretty cool functional programming language. Yeah, I can't get into explaining the whole language right now, but if you're interested in trying something quite different than a lot of other languages, it's a pretty cool one to use, in my opinion. I happen to like it because I happen to use it. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Are you familiar with this kind of notation where you have a function call in the front here, and then it operates on these arguments? It's maybe a little hard to read at first, but yeah, so I'll see if I can explain it just very briefly. In a language like say Python or JavaScript, you would do, if you wanted to add two numbers, we'll just stick with addition, right? You might write it kind of like this, right? Where you have the number that you want to add and you want to add it, so you write that and then you write another number here. Or if you want to run a function, if you had add function, you'd do add to or something along those lines, right? You have the function and then the arguments are in the brackets there. Well, in this notation, you would do, you want to run the add function, so you put it at the first part of a list, and a list is enclosed by 2 brackets. And if you want to add the numbers 2 and 2, you write it like that, and that gives you the value. So if instead of adding I wanted to multiply them, let's multiply by 3 so we can see a difference. It lets you calculate it there. So you can also do that with any number of numbers, and it multiplies them or adds them right away. So that's, you could see how that's maybe a little easier to write than something like this, right? Where you wanted to, if you do 2 times 3 times 5 times 65 times 70, right? You have to write the function a bunch of times in there. So that's a very add and multiply on the same line. Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so if I wanted to do 2 plus 2 times 2, I can actually write it like this. I can do plus 2, and then I want to add to that the result of 2 times 2. I just do this. That's a great question. So this will give the answer. So what's happening here, if I were to just write this out and manually expand it, I would first, you go through each thing in the list and you evaluate the thing in any sublist, right? So 2 is just a number 2, so you write 2. And here you look, this is its own expression, right? So instead of, so what does the result of 2 times 2 equal? Okay, you can actually calculate that. That's 4, so it'll be like this. And then the next step would be that operation directly. So you can think of it a little bit like this bracket, or sorry, this expression in the parentheses gets calculated right away, and then that result is immediately put inside and evaluated with the next expression up. Does that make any sense? I hope that's a little bit clear. I'm not explaining it that well, unfortunately, but in general, Lisp notations. Oh boy, if I could type. It's not just Clojure that does this. There's a whole set of languages. They're all called Lisps. They're called S expressions in general, and they work on a list like this. So here, for example, is the addition, right? And I can't get into it all right now, but if you're curious at all and you want to learn about that, Lisps is the general term for this kind of thing. Does make sense? Understood it right away? Okay, good. I just I don't want to explain things and that explanation not be helpful. So, but yeah, the notation I think is cool. It can be hard to follow when you've got crazy functions like this, but that's more a problem of me than the language itself, right? So, what was I in the middle of doing here? Oh yeah. Let's see. Forge primitives line, brep line. Yes, okay. That does exist. Ooh. Did I kill offset? Did I erase the offset function? I might have. That might have been a mistake. Oh boy. Okay. What time is it right now? 3:30. Okay. Well, okay, this function isn't going to work anyway, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make myself deal with this again later. I'll just delete it all. It's going to suck because I'm going to have to rewrite. You know, actually no, let's do this. I'll be just a little safer. And I'll do this, comment. So they're not gone, but they don't get compiled because they don't work anyway because I have to fix up some of the logic of it. So that is just gonna have to be fine like that. Let's assume that this offset edge function exists. Bounding box center 2D. These are better than nothing. Yeah, it's okay. Partials, arrows. Yes, okay. That's good enough for that. Yeah, that's okay. Not the cleanest solution. I'm more ignoring the problem than anything, but that's going to be fine for now. Okay. Man, I just am really hoping I can get the drawing functions working a little bit again. That would be my dream for the day. I know I can get there, it just is taking longer than I wanted. Okay. So there's hello. I feel like I'm close to things working again. Right? I should be. Okay. Hello, my friend. Hello. Okay, let's close that. Let's recompile it, see if anything changes there, if there's any direct warnings. And we can have a look at things. I'm gonna get myself a coffee for a minute. Okay, let's get the ball rolling once again. So we have things not working right now. Let's have a look at the console in here. Console, please. Ooh, invalid arity. That's a fun error. Okay. Intriguing. I'm gonna ask myself this question. Does this work? This should not work, right? This should break. Or not produce anything, I should say. Let's clear that console for the time being. Okay, let's just draw a line. Just one line. Very straightforward line. Should take 2 points. Let's just draw one from 0, 0 to 100, 100. Let's color it blue. And see if that actually renders. Hey, it does not. That's fun. Is it related to this? It might be related to the axes. Okay. Let's go ahead and get rid of the hello. That shouldn't matter. Wow, okay. Well, this is hard reset. Oh, okay, so the page is loading. That's a good starting point. This should still work, right? This shouldn't. That won't break it, right? It does not. Okay, good. Nothing wrong there. Bad at having conversations. You might be a little silent in chat, like you left or something. Don't really know what to say. Oh, hey, Mads, you seriously, if you don't want to or don't feel comfortable chatting, honestly, that's totally fine. I'm streaming and I want to build an audience and grow how many people are watching and chatting eventually over time. So for one, just assume that there could be other people watching and chatting at some point. So you don't feel the need to fill the silence at all. That's totally not a problem. Two, not everybody likes to chat in anyway. So if you feel like it, you can. If you don't feel like it, that's fine too. If there's no one chatting, I basically talk about what I'm doing anyway. So don't feel any concern on my end for needing to chat. If you have a question at any point, totally go ahead and ask. If you have a thought that is that might be fun to talk about, is relevant to programming, or just something cool that might be good for the other people in chat to talk about, you could go ahead. But seriously, don't feel any pressure. I'm totally comfortable with whatever. I hope that's cool on your end. If I ask questions, it's nice if people respond, but it's also not anyone's responsibility. So even if I ask you something directly and you don't want to respond seriously, that's totally fine, right? This is all just kind of fun, right? It's fun to chat, it's fun to talk, but if you're not up to it, don't do it. So on my end, totally fine. Either way, it's fun to talk, it's fun to not talk and just listen and watch. That's all totally cool with me. I'm easy with it, you know? There's also times if you do put something in the chat, there is a possibility that I miss it. I hope in general people understand that it's not me trying to be rude or anything. It's just sometimes things can be missed. So If I happen to not respond to something you've said, please don't take that in a negative way. It's just the reality of life, you know. Sometimes things are missed. But yeah, so honestly, just tuning in and watching is really cool. If that's what you like to do, I'm totally happy with it. Your life is your own, you know. You do what you want. I'm just glad you're here. That's true of anyone else watching as well. As long as people are generally respectful and not talking about completely irrelevant things, it's pretty much okay. On that note, I'm going to see if I can get things working again. Okay, so that kind of breaks things a little bit. Okay, so this part here, we're conveniently at a point where I can at least draw things back in the window, which is what I didn't have for a little while there. So let's save that. Okay, an empty figure. Let's see if axes, okay, the axes draw too. That's great. So now it's a matter of figuring out this part. So let me have a look at this function on its own. Does that break it? Ooh, okay. This looks weird, but is convenient. Well, is nicely a step in the right direction. Very strange shape though. All right, let's go up to the shape itself here. Let's extrude it by 30 now. Okay. Ah, strange. Very strange. I love it. What's happening? Okay. Let's also change this to slate gray. It's not a real color apparently. Pink? Oh, weird. What's going on? Wait a second, that doesn't make sense to me. Blue. Okay, what did I do wrong here? Okay, let's have a look. If we go to the edge rendering here, oh, I hard-coded the style. Well, that's a little bit silly of me. This should be the word color. And then this should not be blue, it should be the value of color. And that should now change to pink when let's do hot pink. Oh, maybe I have to refresh this. There we go. Okay, it's working. The coloring is working, but the function itself is a total mess. So what's happening? What is happening? Okay, so let's actually, if I change this isometric transform function, instead of isometric, I do shape slash it's in the scene here. I have a few scene rotations, front transform. If I try that instead, it should still look wrong. It does. Okay. This is very weird. I like it. If I divide this to be like a crazy big amount, that should slow things down a bit, but it should make I thought this would look more like a an octagon, but it clearly is not working that way. If I do 6 here, okay, this needs a bit of work, as you might be able to tell. But I accomplished the big thing I wanted to do, which was get things visual, like get things rendering onto screen again, which is it's a nice step in the right direction. But let's not use the front, we'll use the isometric render here, and let's try to figure out this problem we've got here. So these long vertical lines here are correct in some sense. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertical lines which connect all of the, are supposed to, I should say, connect all of the surface, like all of the points on the hexagon here. The hexagon itself is wrong because if I look at, if I go here to test shape, let's actually bring this back up to 8 for fun. Okay, so there now, it's hard to see, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines there, not just 4, they're just overlapping each other. You know what I could do actually, just for fun? No, I don't care to do that. Never mind. Okay. If I scale it just by 1, does that fix things? Ah, okay, so it's a scale problem. Right, okay. So, okay, that's good to know. The obvious problem here. So I scaled it 10 times. Let's make the numbers bigger to compensate for that. Okay, so everything is correct now. Oh, it's way too tall. Let's only extrude it by 100. Okay. So this is a step in the correct direction, but there's a few things going on. The first thing that I know how to fix is this here. This weird looking path, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to do that. Up here is an extra curve function that I'm rendering that I don't need to render. It is the mathematical, like it is the combination of all of these individual points into a function that goes from 0 to 1 all around. So it's a doubling up that I don't need. And so in order for me to get rid of that particular thing, what I'm gonna do is actually have a look at the function that is responsible for producing those surfaces. And those are that would be in Polygon, I do believe. If I have a look at this polygon function here, I'm producing a list of curves. And what I'm doing is this one here, I'm adding this when I don't need to add that. So what I'm going to do is actually just get rid of it entirely. Actually, you know what I am going to do? No, I'm gonna put a little comment here. I'm gonna copy this into it, have a little thing that says below is the curves S expression that adds combined curve VREP function. Okay, so that's just to preserve the code for now, but if I do this, if I just get rid of this conj here, and I only add through polygon, I only add VREP lines for every one of those points. And if I reload this page, those should be gone if I'm thinking about my code properly. Indeed, they are gone. So I can indeed test that out by, if I have a look at, if I do, I do have test shape in here. Test shape, yes. So this test shape, if I count the number of curves from test shape, there's 20. The reason for that is there's going to be 8 times 2, 16. Wait, is that right? If I do history of test shape, I don't remember if this was an octagon or a hexagon that started it all. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, okay, that does make sense. Okay, so right, so that test shape has 20 curves in it, and that comes from the 6 curves that make up the bottom hexagon times 2, 12 for the top hexagon, plus 12 for the vertical lines, which should be 18, plus 2 more for the extra curves that I had on the bottom and top. If I recreate the test shape, now if I redefine it, test, oh wait, first, sorry, I have to reevaluate this function into the REPL. So if I now do if I define test shape now to be extrude of polygon of regular polygon points, the radius is 10, doesn't matter, and 6 to make it a hexagon. If I extrude it by 10, oops, too many arguments. Oh, I did something wrong here. Extrude at 10. There we go. Okay. Now if I do count a test shape, I should only see 18 curves, which is what I see. Okay, so that is why that's gone. Okay. That was maybe more detail than was necessary, but we're stepping in the right direction now, which is a really nice thing. Okay, so scale problem. Scale problem. I know why there's a scale problem. Theoretically, if I do this, give me 1 second actually. I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, what happened now? To step back in my thinking for a second again, I made, maybe this was a design mistake, but I did make this scale function work by finding the center point of the shape that it's going to scale and scaling around that center point. So if I scale things up, they scale their total size the way I want, but they don't scale relative to each other. And that can be really useful in a 2D context if you're drawing stuff, but it is not the behavior I need for this group of elements. But what I don't understand is why this doesn't work. Oh, I wonder if it will work if I do this. No. Okay, this will probably work. Should not be a map V, it should just be map. Is that gonna work? Save it, let's refresh it. It does work, okay. Okay, so now, since it's in a group, svg/scale, I think will actually work now. But let's find out. Gotta put that here. It does indeed appear to work. Let's zoom out. I think you don't see anything because it's too big now. So if I get rid of that, make the extrude smaller. There we go. Okay. Now let's scale this to some weird. Yes. Okay. It indeed is working as expected. Okay. That is fantastic. Right, so now what's next? What is a good thing to try next? Well, let's make this black. Yeah, okay, that's good. Let's try to render surface. A single surface will take a surface, orientation, transform, and a color, and a style, actually. We'll let points be subdivide surface. S, this number, by the way, is huge. Let's make it 20 instead. Let's subdivide the surface S by (2020). So that gives us a list of, that gives us basically a grid of points. But we don't want, Okay, I think I actually have some functions for this set up already. Let's have a look here. Grid. What have I done? Okay, quad mesh, F, U step, V step. Well, okay, that's not bad. Except for, I don't want, I don't want to do it by giving the step size. I want to do it by giving the total number of subdivisions. So just like subdivide curve, I have to give an N instead and get step sizes from that, and then do this little rigmarole here for the quads. I believe that should make sense. So we'll try that. And then this might make sense in a minute. I know this is maybe hard to follow right now. What am I even doing? But hopefully I can get this to work, and then it can be used to render colors onto the faces of this, so you can see it'll actually look more like a 3D thing instead of just kind of a wireframe. Hopefully. Before I do that, I'm gonna change my focus for a second. Okay, no, we're good. Okay, quad, subdivide surface. Split that just for a second there. Okay, so if we use this as a reference, let's do this. Let's actually separate these out for a minute like this. Grid. Okay. There we go. Okay, subdivide curve and subdivide surface. Perfect. Okay, so we have a surface and we're given N1, N2. So we do let U step be 1 over N, N1. V step, oh, this should be NU and NV for, yeah, that's okay. Similarly here, 1 is NV, 1 over NV is the V step. Oops, tragic typo. Okay, then what we do here is is this gonna work the way I think it is? We'll see how this turns out. Okay, so we use the function quad path in the same way here. Surface times float float, or you don't, it's not multiplied. I'm using bad terminology now because I'm getting a little tired. Right, so surface takes, it's a function that takes in two parameter inputs, u and v. Both u goes from 0 to 1 and v goes from 0 to 1. If you map that function that will expect two of those values with the u step, v step, but you map it onto oh, this is a little bit wrong. I have to do it a little bit differently. Let's get rid of the floats just for simplicity, for ease of reading for now. Right, I have to actually apply s to a singular argument here, which is coming from quad path u v. Oh, this is in a for loop. Oh, I see. Yeah, actually, that's pretty reasonable. Let's try this. The only difference is that u step and v step are calculated from the numbers instead of required directly. So we'll see if that makes sense. Oh, I've defined quad path twice, but I'll do this. Okay, subdivide surface. Does this work? U step, V step exists. Range, UV, U step, V step. F is not the function, it's S, otherwise it's the same. Let's give that a try. So using subdivide surface, we should be able to go, oh, this should now also be split into its own section, which will be called surface render, and it's not edge render, it's curve render. Okay, render surface. Right, so if I subdivide a surface S, let's give this a test. Oops. Test shape exists, that's good. Let's def B as first from surfaces of test shape. Okay, so we've got B. Okay, good. So it's a working surface function. Perfect. Let's run this function. Subdivide surface on the function B with a step of 2 and 2. That gives me lists, a list of lists of 4 points. Yeah, okay. Okay, so surface render. This is not in fact points, it's going to be quads basically. Is quads the right thing to cells maybe? Let's do quads. We'll call them quads, it's fine. Numbers make your eyes go crazy. These numbers, or numbers in general, I'll clear them out of the way there. Yeah, apologies, this might be kind of hard to follow. It's a little unintuitive right now. Also, it's not exactly visually clear what I'm trying to do. Yeah, the vector outputs. Yeah, so I know it's pretty unfriendly here, right? Like that's so unclear. No apology necessary. Okay, good. The funny thing is, I'm not even looking at the numbers, I'm just looking at the structure that it outputs, right? Like, it's just as useful for me to take just the first one from it, or to take the count from it, right? Instead, to get an idea of the shape. But yeah, it's a huge mess. It looks like a huge mess, right? Turns out that huge mess is actually useful for rendering things out, at least sometimes, if I'm thinking about it properly. Okay, these quads, for each quad, I need to create a polygon, basically. And each polygon, well, let's just do it. Let's do the fort for quad in quads. We can now actually run basically the same transformation here on that, but it's not points, it's quad, and it's not a polyline, it's going to be a polygon. Right, so this quad is just, it's a list of 4 points. I want to orient those 4 points to the correct camera angle, which will in pretty much in most test cases is just isometric, but it can be whatever. That gets transformed here. You drop the Z value of that transformation so that you project it onto the SVG canvas. That's an assumption, of course, but it doesn't matter. That's just, right now that's a useful way for me to do it. I don't know if it's the quote-unquote most correct way, but it does work for what I've been doing. And here it draws a polygon, which is slightly different than a polyline in that it will have a totally closed edge. And then you apply, instead of just doing color, I want to run style element, and I don't remember how to call that. So the style is some style map, and yeah, that has to be style like that, and that should be okay. I think that could work. We will find out very soon. I think that's fine. And style element, how does, let's test this. I think fill is the word I'm looking for here. If I fill it blue and I style an element, which is SVG line, no, let's do SVG polygon just for fun. 0 0 0 10 10 0. Oh. Okay. So that produces a polygon with the points that I gave it, and the fill there is blue. Okay, that is how I want to use that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is try to run the function and see what it shows up as. Okay. Here we're looking at this. Let's just change the word curves to surfaces, and the style has to be a proper map here with the key fill. We're not going to fill it with black, we're going to fill it with what's a fun color? Hot pink's a fun color. I like that. It's perfect. Okay. Will it work? Unexpected end of file while reading. Really? I've done something wrong. Okay, that's not a big deal. 4 quad and quads. Do this whole thing. Okay. That gets called. Close that. For let defen. Did I miss something? I thought. Well, let's find out. Still wrong. Oh, Well, okay, let's. Okay, so that looks like it should be fine. Let me get this sort of working again. Shape / render surfaces. Oh, render surface. Ah, yes, I didn't make the. Of course. I am getting slightly ahead of myself. Defen render surfaces is going to be shape, transform, style. Ooh, this actually is still currently color. Oop. Yeah. So that's a change. Yes. Okay, what we do here is map the function render surface with the transform and the style over the list of surfaces from the shape. Save that. Let's go and refresh this page. Broken. Try again. Still broken. Maybe broken. Well, wait. Let's. Okay, that is working. Hey, cool. Messy, but cool. Okay. You know what I want to do now is actually put some. What's the there's fill, there's stroke. Yeah, stroke, blue, yeah. Stroke, oop, blue. These colors are so hideous, but it's fun. Doesn't have to be beautiful. Here we have some interesting properties to the render at the moment. If I, interesting actually. Has something gone wrong? Test shape. Count surfaces from test shape 11, surfaces 8. Zoom this out a little bit. Hello. I'm gonna get rid of that. I have no idea what color this is. I'm just bored now. It's kind of, it's a little ugly, but kind of cool. Let's do slate gray. This is totally not relevant. I'm just goofing around. Okay, let's scale this up. Well, no, let's just zoom in a little bit here. Also, that contrast isn't very high. If I do white, how does that look? That looks cool, but looking cool isn't what I need to do here. I'm wasting time. That's my bad. Let's do green and black. Let's start with that. I think that should look clearly distinct enough. No, hot pink was good. Hot pink is perfect. That's where it's at. Hot pink. Yes, that's not a color. There we go. Okay, so let's first of all, so that things go a little faster, we're using a pretty tight grid here. Let's cut that in half. In fact, if we were to subdivide, of course that won't change because it's not where the live reload is. Oh. I have to refresh the page. Okay, now, so we do get render issues. So there's all kinds of stuff going wrong here, and that's because I need to work a lot harder to get this to actually work the way I intend. The first thing I'm wondering about is whether or not I actually have surfaces in the right spots. In order to do that, what I need to do is surfaces of test shape. They will look like this. One, two, three, four, five, 6 are built up from okay. Well, let me let's take 2 from this. Save that, refresh this. We should only see the top and bottom curves, or surfaces, I think. Or did I not save this? No changes need to be saved. That's not true. That can't be true. What am I doing wrong now? Take 2. Shouldn't that work? Hey, okay. That is now working. This looks really bizarre, and I have to dig into that in a minute. But I'm going to first take a bathroom break. Okay, right, so what is this even? This is an approximation of what I was hoping would be a proper fully covered surface that's composed of subsurfaces that are triangles. This is not the right approach. This is supposed to be a union of subsurfaces of triangles, and there's gaps. That's not good. If I change this to drop to render surfaces, so I don't render the top and bottom and I only render the sides, I get a nice-ish. I have to refresh this one more time, I think. Right, I get a nice even grid along these surfaces, which is what I want, but there's a problem here too. Well, there's a few things going wrong here. One, I'm overshooting the extent, so there's something wrong with my quad production strategy. The other problem is, well, so I think like if I take this down to 5, I think any even numbers of quads will have weird problems like that, but I'm not sure. I'm not certain about that. Yes, okay. So I think I need to revisit how my quads are built up from a surface, but secondly, the order of painting the surfaces matters, right? This is wrong. This is not in front of that, and it looks weird. It looks wrong because it is wrong. So I have to, in my render methods here, I'm gonna have to start projecting like rays from the camera and passing them through surfaces and doing a bunch of more complex mathematics, which is fine. It just it means there's work to do. What I can do is Whoops. Render curves. That was a weird way to do that. Instead of this, it's just a color. But it doesn't show up the way I want it to. It's almost good. Let's make them blue so they're clear. Yeah. And if we take away the stroke here from the surfaces, we get closer to what we want. That's closer to what I want, but it's still not right. Let's move this behind and see what that looks like. See, that's still not good. Right, so there's a few things that need work. One, surfaces themselves are not being, they're being rendered they're not good enough yet because of some assumptions I made. But that's totally fine. That's just part of the work. Okay, surfaces. That's good there. Actually, out of curiosity for myself. I should have. I'm gonna check one more thing here. Take 2 of those surfaces. That's good. Render one surface. I'm gonna render it with a high count here. Render curves, I'm just going to delete this. Okay. What? That should work. Oh, right. This is probably, it's going to work, but it's going to take a really long time because I have a lot of polygons that are being drawn now. See that? It's very unresponsive. And that is totally to be expected and not how I want to actually render these. But I've proven, loosely speaking, to myself that at least the surface, when you add more and more and more fine step value, so more and more and more and more grid points on the parametric surface, it does approach the proper surface, right? This is wrong, but that presumably if you go to infinity, you will resolve an actual point there. So mathematically speaking, I wasn't wrong. I just wasn't very smart about making things actually computationally friendly. I'll say it that way. So this needs rework, and that comes from Polygon here uses brep surface polygon function here, which uses brep surface union of any number of triangles, where triangles are the Delaunay triangulation of the particular polygon. Okay, so in the case of this hexagon, you can kind of see it. There's a triangle from there to there, and another one like this. That's really hard to see, but that's fine. For the purposes of what I'm talking about, theoretically, the union of all of those triangles does make a proper surface, but all the parameters are like it doesn't. It's a discontinuous surface. So when you traverse the parameters, it just makes a weird looking mess. So that's not good enough. So this strategy has to improve. The surface union is also probably too naive a solution. If I go up to operations here, brep, surface union, all I'm doing is, oh boy, I'm running out of screen real estate here. All I'm doing is, for all of the surfaces, I'm remapping the V interval I'm remapping the V interval. So it's basically like I'm taking two parameter space rectangles, each working fine on their own. I'm mushing them together, and then I'm squishing them along the V or U direction, one of the two directions. So the step size change stops making sense. I'm not even explaining things very well anymore. That is a good sign for me to probably sign off for the day. I know I need there's a lot of work for me to do in terms of actually getting the mathematics of the surfaces to work in a way that rendering can also be efficient and sensible. Right now, that is only true of extruded straight edge things. So rectangles, basically. So that's gonna be a big project, but that's part of the fun. Oops. I just want to try one final thing. If I take this down to 50, so it's a little better it's a little less chuggy here, and I make the stroke black again, what does this look like? Okay, gotta refresh the page now. Uh-oh. Will it respond? Ah, it will. Yeah. So it's close but not right. Okay. Well, I am very pleased that this is working, at least. Let me save this down to 5 there and subdivide a curve. Instead of 20, let's just do 10. So these are pretty low resolution, so they shouldn't blow up my SVG file or here, which is good if I run these without remembering to change them. Now they're lower by default. And I'll just remove this, take 2 off that, save this. Let's change the color to, is lime green a color, a CSS color? I feel like it could be, but I don't know. I did save that, yeah. I'm gonna have to refresh this page, and that should hopefully allow things to speed up. Hey, lime green is a color. Okay. There's a bunch of stuff I have to work on, but I've got good starts on things. I'm really happy. I've fixed all of most of the errors in my code base after moving things around, which is good because it's a tedious thing, and I didn't want to do it, but you have to do it, so I'm glad that's done. And now I can work on actually figuring out nice ways to actually render surfaces in a smart way, not just in a quick and dirty way. Oh, CMB, yay, yeah. I'm pretty pleased. This was a good Friday effort for me. Can I ask, when you made those refactorings, what was breaking the code today? Oh, yeah, so this is maybe just honestly a mistake in process on my part. What was breaking was stuff like, here's one example that was, that took a bit to figure out. I went here, so geometry calculations. I have these two functions, dot product and cross product. I made the decision. This function I originally called d star dot product, and then this one I did c3d star. When I did those, when did I? Oh, sorry, I see. I was yesterday actually. I did a lot of yeah. If you poke around yesterday's VOD at all, I spent most of the time. What I wanted to do yesterday was make this surface rendering, but what I ended up doing a little bit more was moving code around. So that was yesterday, and I knew that it would break stuff. I was intending to fix all of that last night, but my schedule got away on me. I went to the gym and was working out longer than intended, and blah 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 blah. So I had to fix up some of those things today, which is fine, not a big deal. But it was refactorings mostly around because during my little break I spent some time thinking about how the code should actually be organized, and I've got 3 different libraries now. Forge is where I'm putting all of the 3D model math and data generation stuff. It is basically just you put your 3D model code in and you get the data structure out from this library. That's the idea there. Stylo is explicitly only a document rendering library, so it can parse Markdown, it can output HTML and SVG. And then ASDF is a horrible name for the interactive layer. It's a different library again. The idea here is eventually I have all of the interactivity stuff in components here. So having made that decision, code is kind of nicely delineated into these libraries. Each library can be used without any of the other ones, so they're kind of independent from each other, but still really useful to use together. But having made that decision, there are a lot of functions in this library that made no sense here, so I had to copy and paste them basically into here. And when you do that, you have to call the function from the right namespace. So a lot of things were, before I had g/distance, and then I had to just change that to f/distance, right? That's a lot of the stuff you saw today. So it was yesterday, if you look at the VOD at all, it was a ton of copy paste moving stuff, which is also, it seems silly maybe, but for me this is a pretty big step forward in understanding how I'm going to approach it all. Like that, I have these libraries more clearly distinguished in my mind is very helpful. So most of the breaking changes were actually not fundamental to the functions, they were just naming problems, because I changed names and changed namespaces. So bit tedious, but it's all fixed up, and now I can get back to the harder stuff, which I kind of like. I'm pretty happy with that. So hopefully this weekend I have a good, nice break, but maybe I come up with some way to make nicely behaved surfaces that I can put nice grids over and get good shapes. And maybe then I also come up with a way to do an efficient Z ordering or hidden line removal or something like that. That's definitely going to be harder to do, but I have to come up with some way to do it, because I need to be able to render the surfaces that I produce. So okay, that is going to be it for me for the week. Coolio. Yeah, hey, Sayung B, thank you for tuning in and participating in the chat a little bit there. I really do appreciate that. It's encouraging to me that there are people who are interested and tune in, so appreciate it. And Mads, not sure if you're still around, but thanks to you as well. I do appreciate that. And anyone else who's watching and not chatting, or watching this on the VODs channel or something, even that is really quite helpful. So I hope everyone has a good one. I will be back again on Monday, and yeah, have a good weekend. That's going to be it for me. All right. Bye. Thanks for the streaming today. Yeah. Glad to do it, and I'll be back on Monday. All right. That's actually it for me. I do got to go. Have a good one.